Welcome everyone to the Age Backwards Summit 2025. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Ellen Weiss. Ellen, welcome to the summit.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background, and we can go from there.
Okay, sounds great. Um, so I've always been interested in health and wellness. I have my MBA in healthcare administration. I did take a little time off to raise my children. And then when I wanted to get back into the workforce, I kind of did a little self-study and I kind of wanted to get back into health and wellness in some way. And that's when I decided to become certified as a health coach. And I started to work collaboratively with a community center. And when I was working with my clients, I was really learning a lot about their stress levels, both in the office and at home. So I decided to continue my path, and I have additional certifications in workplace wellness, executive wellness, stress mastery, and most recently, I did a certification on women's menopause health because that is a huge passion of mine, working with women in midlife so that they can feel their best as they're kind of, moving into the next chapter of their life. But I think a lot of the same philosophy can go whether we're talking about men or women or anybody. We all want to live younger and feel our best way into our ages.
I agree with you. I explain to people there's a difference between as you're growing older,
Mhm.
existing versus living, and then taking it one step from living to thriving.
I love that. Yes, we need to thrive. We can't just survive, as they say.
What do you do to age backwards?
So, I mean, obviously, I take good care of myself. I try to eat well, whole foods. Um, I try to eat more small meals throughout the day. But I also believe in, still treating myself. I do believe in that 80-20 lifestyle. So I eat well most of the time, but I still enjoy a glass of wine or maybe sharing some dessert with my husband or friends when we go out for dinner. So that's kind of food. Movement is very important. Um, and sometimes that movement needs to be adjusted a little bit when we age. Our bodies are changing. We need to be careful. So I have started to do a little bit more stretching. And I love swimming. I mean, it's so, low impact. It burns great amount of calories, but I'm not really pounding on my joints. So I love that. And I'm lucky to be here in the beautiful state of Arizona where I can swim most of the year outdoors. So food and exercise, I think, are sort of the primary targets, but it does expand way beyond just food and exercise. I like to have a good morning routine. I've gotten more structured with that. I like to start my day off right, and this morning routine does help a lot. Sleep is very important. I like to say that sleep is your superpower. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you're not going to eat right. You're not going to move. You're not going to have the energy to exercise, and you're going to be stressed out. So sleep is so important. And
It's interesting you say that because some of the other guests on the summit have also identified sleep as one of the number one things people should do.
I agree. I totally agree. And I also feel that social connection is very important, and we need to schedule that into our calendar like any other appointment. So, connecting with your significant other, and also with friends and family. I think that's very important.
Oh, I agree. My mother is 91. She still lives in her own house. She drives, she's got her driver's license renewed, and she plays bridge and mahjong a
Mhm.
couple times a week, and I go over there on Sundays and we play Rummy Cue.
Ah.
And it's just amazing how sharp and physically alert she
Mhm.
is. So I know it's possible to be in your 90s
Mhm.
and be enjoying life.
Yes, yes.
I think that's the key. Also, you touched on something where you use the word movement, and I love that as opposed to exercise. And the
Mhm.
reason I say that is when people hear exercise, it tends to have a negative connotation. When
I
you say
agree.
movement or physical activity, it has a more positive
Mhm.
connotation. And where you like to swim, I love to hike and walk.
Mhm.
And most people, I tell them, walking is the most underrated physical activity they can do. What do you think about the nutrition aspects? Because our food has been adulterated, as
Mhm.
you're aware. It's not when we were growing up what it used to be. They've changed the ingredients.
Right, right. I
So,
agree.
what is your position on getting proper nutrition and fuel for the body?
Well, I mean, I think that you use that word fuel, and I agree. Food is our fuel. And just like you want to put the right kind of gas in the tank of your car, I think you need to be very careful what type of fuel you're putting in your body. I try not to eat packaged foods. Anyone out there, if you're in the grocery store and you're grabbing packaged food or, even yogurt, turn that box around, turn that container around and look at those ingredients. And if you can't pronounce the ingredients, you don't want to put it inside your body. And then we can start talking about sugar and all the different names for sugar and how bad that is. So I really try to eat real whole foods. I eat a lot of really good salads with the colors of the rainbow. I put lots of different types of vegetables in my salads, some fruit, some nuts, avocado. And when I use things like a really ripe avocado, you don't even need dressing because it's got that kind of, creamy texture to it. So lots of salads. And then, for dinner, lean protein, again, vegetables, whole grains. I love quinoa. I try to stay away from all the white stuff. The white stuff we know isn't good. The white stuff is basically sugar. So your body doesn't know the difference. If you're eating white rice or you're eating, a candy bar, sometimes your body doesn't know the difference. It breaks down just like sugar. So I try my best, but like I always say, I like a good treat like anyone else, and I will treat myself. I don't use the word cheat. So it's a balance, but I think it needs to be a mindful balance. You need to be aware of what you're eating, um, and think about it. Take the time to think about what you're cooking for dinner, ordering at a restaurant, shopping at a grocery store, or better yet, going to a farmer's market and have a good conversation with a local farmer and see what's in season and fresh.
That's great advice. What's your position on supplements?
Supplements. So that's interesting because I think there are a lot of opinions on supplements. And I do not have a medical degree, so I need to be a little careful when I talk about supplements. But I think what I can share is what I take. I know that there are certain things, and even like you said, there are certain nutrients that are lacking even in our food. And then you can talk about why and what's going on with our soil. That's probably a whole nother discussion. So I do take a multivitamin. I take magnesium. There's lots of different kinds of magnesium. So a magnesium complex, which helps with sleep, which helps with muscle relaxation, digestion. I take a probiotic again for digestion because the gut is the most important organ in our body. A healthy gut really can lead to your total health and wellness, your brain, your immune system. So I try to do things to make sure that my gut is healthy. Um, I take fish oil. There's a lot of, you know, uh, information out there how important a good, high quality fish oil is for our system, for our skin, and for what's going on inside. So those, I think, are sort of the main supplements that I take. But I would really encourage any of my clients or anyone out there listening to meet with a physician, possibly a functional medicine physician that understands what type of lab work to order to see where your body is lacking and what you need to do to correct that, either through food or through supplements.
That's great advice. That's what I do. I get lab work done, so I know where my numbers are for magnesium, for
Mhm.
potassium, for
Yep.
sodium. It's more than just cholesterol, the HDL, LDL. There's different types of LDL.
Mm.
So there's a lot of things that, like you said, get a functional medicine medical doctor because they look at those and they're more interested in providing solutions
Yes.
using food or supplements as opposed to prescription medication.
Right. And they'll also take the time to meet with you, which
Big
is
difference.
important.
Yes. I
Important.
I also encourage, like you said, to read the ingredients because there's a lot of products out there, and some are very, very good, and some are very, very bad and
Mhm.
unhealthy, and some of them don't really contain what they say they do.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to be careful and do some research. Um, I know that I get approached a lot to promote various protein powders, and the first thing I do is what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they show me the ingredients, and they'll have things like maltodextrose, sucrose, fructose, and I like, you know, corn fiber. I'm like, that's not good stuff. Why do you think your product's so good? Oh, well, we needed to make it taste good, or we needed to do this and do that. And I'm thinking, okay, and there's other high quality products that don't use those.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And all those words that you used, that end in OSE, sucrose, maltose, let's go back to our high school chemistry a little bit. That's sugar. Those are all words for sugar. So be aware. If they're not using the word sugar, they're using something else and they're trying to trick you. So pay attention.
yeah, now like the high fructose corn syrup, they don't call it that anymore. They call it corn syrup, or they call it fructose syrup, or they call it various things. It's
Yes,
all
yes.
the same stuff. It's all toxic, it's all poison.
Mhm. And another thing that we didn't talk about when we're talking about nutrition and food is water and drinking and hydration, and that also how very important that is, and what can happen to your body when you get dehydrated.
Yeah, and as you know, or probably are aware, 75% of the US population is chronically dehydrated.
Okay, interesting statistic.
And a lot of times when people think they're hungry, they're actually thirsty.
Yes, yes.
And the other thing is our bodies are 60 to 70% water, not soda, diet soda, fruit juices, fruit flavored beverages, milk, or alcohol.
Right.
And I'm amazed at how much soda and diet sodas people consume,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not realizing that's all stuff that will age you very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So water's great. And if you don't like the taste of pure water, I always tell my clients, put some sliced strawberries and some mint right in your water, lemons, oranges. Experiment, have fun with it. Add some fruits, add some cucumber, different types of herbs. And oh my goodness, it'll taste delicious. It'll taste better than your soda or your flavored waters that are out there that really aren't good for you either.
I'm sure you've had the same experience with a lot of my clients when they stop drinking soda for 5, 6 months and then they may taste it or go back and have one. It tastes funny to them
Yeah. Tastes like a chemical.
because it is.
Mhm. Yeah.
You mentioned lean protein. Can
Mhm.
you explain or define what you mean by lean protein?
Yeah. I mean, chicken, white meat chicken, um, lean beef, you know, uh, filet. There's, other beefs that are leaner than others. Um, fish is, an amazing source of protein and also an amazing form of healthy fat that we need. We need that fat also. If we want to look younger, especially for the ladies out there, we need a little bit of fat in our diet. Good
Well, that's
health.
where the avocado is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, avocado is amazing. So yeah, chicken, fish, lean meat. Those are my lean proteins. Beans, other sources of you know, protein that does not need to be animal protein. Kind of experiment with what you like, but stay away from the fat on the chicken and some of the fattier meats and steaks. Uh, so that's kind of what I try to put in my weekly menu.
Yeah, just a caveat to the audience. I always make sure with fish that they avoid farm raised fish.
Mhm.
Tilapia is farm raised. You need to avoid that. Atlantic salmon is farm raised.
Mhm.
It's just the name they use to fool people.
Right, right,
My wife and I were at the grocery store, and I was saying I don't want the Atlantic salmon. And we wanted wild caught. And she
right.
said, well, what's the difference? It's cheaper. I said, well, if you saw what it looked like before they added the dyes to it, you wouldn't touch it. And the person behind the counter said, he's right. He says,
Wow.
if you know what we did to this to make it look this way, you wouldn't touch it.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So
Yeah,
I always tell people I usually don't eat salmon at restaurants because again, I'll say Atlantic caught salmon.
right,
It's farm
right.
raised. It's
Yeah.
not the wild caught. If it's wild caught, that's a different story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that proves that we need to educate ourselves. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And that's why it's so important to work with a professional like you or myself that has studied health and wellness. And we read about all of this stuff on a daily basis. We try to educate ourselves and asking the good questions.
What's your thoughts or opinion about stress as it relates to aging?
Mm. I mean, I think that stress is a major ager. I mean, the chemicals that go on, we say the word stress like it's a word, that it's not only that it's a medal of honor. You talk to people, hey, how you doing? Ah, I'm so stressed out. I'm so busy with work. Those words, stress and busy, are really not positive words. I think stress has a major impact on what's going on in your body and how your body works, your cortisol levels. I mean, we can talk a lot of medical terms here, your thyroid, long-term stress can create chronic long-term disease, and really bad, very negative impact on your entire body. So we definitely, as a society, need to find ways to de-stress, whether that's trying to stay away from your phone for certain times of the day or going for a walk and just, looking at nature, um, and trying some meditation. I do short meditation. I'm not a 30-minute meditator. I'm a 5-minute, guided meditator. But after I get done listening to a 5-minute meditation, I am more relaxed. I am more positive about my day. Uh, and I think it creates those positive neurons in your brain to sort of help to de-stress. So we could, again, a lot of medical terminology there. But, I think we need to be very, very wary about the amount of stress that we are carrying and causing to ourselves and to others around us.
What other suggestions do you have to relieve stress or avoid it?
I mean, I think avoiding is hard. I think managing and mastering, I sometimes like to use the word master your stress because manage it isn't even really good enough anymore. I think the one thing is to really be attuned to your body and to your mind and to try to find out what your triggers are. What is causing you stress? Because different people, we're all unique individuals, and stress can affect us all differently. We're not a one size fits all. So find out what triggers stress. Is it reading emails first thing in the morning? Is it reading too many emails in a row? Do you need to get up and walk away? Is it certain conversations? Is it driving during rush hour? Should you give yourself 15 extra minutes if you're going to be getting on the highway? Even that can just de-stress you. So find out what your triggers are. And sometimes food can cause stress in your body. If you are eating greasy food, it's going to just cause that internal stress also that's not good for you.
Yeah.
So be aware, be mindful, pay attention, keep a journal, keep a stress journal, and try to find out what those triggers are. We're the best expert on our own body. We like to use a lot of professionals out there, which is great. But we need to almost be our own expert about ourselves and really pay attention to that.
I find it interesting because a trigger for me is watching the news. I
Oh,
need to avoid that. And,
yeah.
and I intentionally limit. Uh, Usually after 2 or 3 minutes, I have to turn it off because I'm not able to take it.
I agree. I agree. I get a daily email that gives me the five headlines of the day. And that's enough. So I read my five headlines. I know what's going on locally and around the world. So I can communicate with others, but I cannot watch 30, 60 minutes of news. Not anymore.
Oh gosh, some people watch 2 or 3, 4 hours of it.
Right, exactly. I can't have that on in the background as I'm going throughout my day.
Yeah, music is better.
Yeah, definitely.
I just recently wrote down something when I was feeling a little stressed and a little down. It just says, smile, David. The universe is smiling favorably upon you.
Uh,
So,
I love that. Even just that reminder, um, I know when I was doing a lot of customer service, that would be the first thing that we would tell people in a training. Just put a smile on your face because you can hear that smile. And when you're having a conversation with someone, they're looking at that smile. And that energy bounces back between people. There is definitely that positive energy. So I like that. I think we have to remind ourselves to smile. We have to remind ourselves to be happy, to be grateful.
yeah, that I was going to say grateful. Be grateful. It's interesting because I just turned 70 and I wake up, there's no aches, no pains. I feel great. And then I talk to peers who
Mhm.
are my age or younger.
Mhm.
And like you said, they're complaining
Yeah.
about their, hip hurts, their knee hurts, their back hurts. They'll make excuses. I was talking to another person, and it was interesting how they said that you need to have a why
Mm,
for
mm,
wanting to be healthier, younger, more energetic.
mhm,
And what happens is a lot of times we go along and suddenly, because of being sedentary, we're not able to get up. We're
mm,
not able to get down on the floor and play with the kids or grandkids and then get up again. And so when you're able to do that, and I call it participating in life as opposed to spectating,
mm.
I think that's important. How do you feel about having a purpose or a why to being younger?
Oh, I think it's amazing. I totally agree. I think we do. We all need a why. And I would say write it down. There's so many exercises that, like journaling type things that you can find online, prompts to help you. But yeah, what is your why for yourself, for your family, for your grandchildren, for your friends, for your community, for your environment? What's your why? What can you personally do for yourself to make yourself a better person, a better you? And what can you do for the world around you? Because it takes all of us together to, make this world a great place. So I would totally agree, a mission statement, a vision statement, whatever you want to call it, uh, do it, find out what is your why, write it down, type it up, put it on your bulletin board, hang it on the mirror in your bathroom, hang it on your visor in your car, and remind yourself what is your why and what steps do you need to do to continue on that path.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, um, what books are you reading now?
What books am I reading now? So, I have started to part of my morning ritual. It's called the Miracle Morning,
Oh,
and
Hal Elrod.
yes, yes. So I am rereading Hal's book, which is a great reminder. And I'm using his app. That's my morning routine. So that is how I get my short 3-minute mindfulness activity and my writing and my reading and my movement and my positive affirmations. That is how I start my day. Um, and I'm also rereading, it's not a book, but I was honored and privileged to take part in a retreat a little over a year ago at some place called the Modern Elder Academy, MEA, which was started by Chip Conley. Chip has also written a few books. I highly recommend anyone that is out there just go and sign up for Chip's emails, learn about his retreat centers that anyone can go to. There's one in Baja, Mexico, and a brand new one in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when I went through the retreat, we got a full journal, a written journal with prompts, but it reads like a book. And we didn't use the full journal during the week retreat, believe it or not. So I am now rereading that. That's part of my morning reading. I can take a page or 2 pages and learn something new about how I can age, how I can be a modern elder.
I like that. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book. Well, I love to read also for pleasure. I love to read historical fiction. I like to learn about our past and how it relates to our present day, because there are a lot of similar themes, both positive and negative, um, about what happened in the past. I love to read books about strong women and find role models. I think it's really important for all of us to have role models. So I love to learn about, amazing women out there that have done great things. And it just kind of makes me think, okay, what can I do? I read an interesting book by Kristen Hanna about nurses in the Vietnam War. And that was fascinating
Wow.
because they really were not recognized as veterans. And when these women came home, they were not welcomed in some of the veteran um, therapy sessions, groups, clubs. It took a long time for them to be recognized. And it's sort of a similar theme that I think women and other minority groups have gone through about making sure that we have a seat at the table. And I think that theme is still continuing today.
Excellent, excellent. Have you read The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews?
I have not, no.
That's one of my favorite books, and I recommend and tell my clients it's life-changing.
Okay, all right.
I think you will enjoy it.
Okay, I will. I will look into that.
How can the audience reach out and connect with you?
Well, I hope that you will share, first of all, my email, Ellen at everydaywellbeingsuccess.com. That's probably the easiest way. Ellen Weiss or Ellen Romer Weiss on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Feel free to reach out, send me a DM. I'd love to connect with you and see how I can help you, support you personally, professionally. My Facebook page is mostly filled with health and wellness advice. I share a few family pictures here and there, but I really like to share what's going on, how I can be a better person, and how I can help other people become better personally with their health and wellness.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being a guest today. We're out of time, and I appreciate all the knowledge and wisdom you shared.
Well, thank you, David. You're doing amazing things and you are spreading so much great information through your book and just through other things that you're involved with. So I love following you and paying attention to what you're doing because I know that you really have had an amazing experience, life experiences, which are so important. So thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to always continuing our conversations and learning together.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.